and now is exactly the right moment. So start. Whatever good you want to do, you start it now. Don't wait for some good time or right moment to start. So this moment itself is the right moment. Any good thing, immediately you start. So today's birthday is Lance Edward Armstrong. Lance Armstrong is called as, and he's professional road racing cyclist. He's an inspirational personality, and he's the main inspiration to Yuvraj Singh. Once the cricketer, our great cricketer Yuvraj Singh, when he faced the cancer and when he is completely depressed and all, somebody gave him the autobiographic sketch of Lance Armstrong. So which gave him spirit and inspiration. And you know that he has come out of that danger. And again, he participated in the cricket later. So he says, the Lance Armstrong, anything is possible. You can be told that you have a 90% chance or a 50% chance or a 1% chance, but you have to believe and you have to fight. And he won regard as a sports icon for his 7 consecutive Tour de France wins from 1999 to 2005, the most in the event's history. Okay, today is the lecture 10, which deals with the application of first law for flow systems or control volumes. So summary of last class, which you see, we have dealt with first law of thermodynamics, its statement and its application to closed systems. And we developed the general energy balance applied to closed systems. And we have defined CP, CV, and the calculations related to internal energy and enthalpy changes. And we obtained the expressions for work transfer, heat transfer, change in enthalpy, change in internal energy for isochoric, isobaric, isothermal, adiabatic, and general polytropic processes. And we solved energy balance problems for closed systems that involve heat and work interactions for general ideal gases. And if you see the formulae that we had, we have summary of the formulae for all the closed systems for different processes. And okay, mainly 1 or 2 things I want to stress on. You remember that and it will make your life easier. So your first law of thermodynamics for closed system is delta Q is equal to du plus delta W. Okay, that simple thing if you take. If delta W is not there, then delta Q is equal to du. So delta Q, whatever say the sign of delta Q, du also will have the same sign. If delta Q is positive, du is positive. If delta Q is negative, du is negative. Delta Q is positive means I am giving heat to the system. So naturally, internal energy increases. So du is positive. So heat given to the system increases the internal energy of the system. Similarly, delta Q negative means heat taken from the system. So naturally, it loses the internal energy and du is negative and U decreases. So heat given to the system, internal energy increases. Heat taken from the system, internal energy decreases. So it's straightforward. Suppose delta Q is not there, du and delta W is there. So du plus delta W equal to 0, or delta W is equal to minus du. So delta W and du will have opposite signs. If work is positive, du is negative. If work is negative, du is positive. We can understand that because work is positive means work is done by the system. How can it do? By spending internal energy. So internal energy decreases. So if work is done by the system, internal energy decreases. If work is done on the system, delta W is negative. So du becomes positive. So means its internal energy increases. Because I am doing work on the system, there is some input to it. So naturally, its energy increases. So that is the way these are related. So I can, so internal energy increases whenever heat is given to the system or work is done on the system. Similarly, internal energy decreases whenever heat is taken from the system or work is done by the system. So everything you can clearly understand. Common sense also says that, okay, this equation is good. Okay, then I told you we got the expressions for du, Cv dt, or u2 minus u1 is Cv into T2 minus T1, dH is Cp dt, or H2 minus H1 is Cp into T2 minus T1 for all the processes. And okay, somebody asked me actually, when delta Q equal to 0, T1 equal to T2, that mental block we have to come out. So delta Q is 0 means adiabatic process, T1 equal to T2 means isothermal process. So if there is no heat transfer, it doesn't mean that temperature is same, because it is our mental block that only when it is heated, then there will be increase in the temperature. If it is not heated, temperature will be same. So that concept you have to forget about it. Delta Q equal to 0 is adiabatic system. It is entirely different. And T1 equal to T2 is isothermal system. It is entirely different. Okay. And so we know all the relations. So equation of state you have to remember P1 V1 by T1 equal to P2 V2 by T2. And the relations for adiabatic PV power gamma equal to constant, polytropic PV power n equal to constant. And the remaining everything's very simple derivations only. And so whenever we are given a problem, so how to tackle the problem? Again, I will just brief it. So you will be given or defined the initial state of the system. So state 1 is given to you. So P1, V1, T1 will be given to you. And if you want, you can calculate the mass from the equation of state. P1, V1 equal to mRT1. So you can calculate the mass. If m is given, so some other variable can, because there are P1, P, V, T, and mass. Okay, out of the 4, 3 will be given to you, and fourth one can be calculated using the equation of state. So at the state 1, I know all the things: pressure, volume, temperature, and mass. And so when a process takes place, I will be given what is the process, type of process, and I will be given one property at the end of the process. So one property is given at the end of the process, and the process, because I know the process, I can find out another property through the process relation. So whether it is PV power gamma, or P is equal to constant, or V equal to constant, or T equal to constant, or PV power n equal to constant. So two are related there. So if one is given, the other can be obtained from the process relation. Once I get two properties, then P1 V1 by T1 equal to P2 V2 by T2 gives the third property. So I can get all the three properties at the state 2. Similarly, whatever be the number of processes, I go from one state to another state. So one is directly given, one property, another property from the process relation, and the third property from the P1 V1 by T1 equal to P2 V2 by T2 relation. So once I get all the three properties, I have the relations for W12, Q12, U2 minus U1, H2 minus H1, everything I can calculate. Okay, so it's a very, very simple thing. And you can solve the problems, and the definite marks you will get when you solve this. So the caution you have to take is about the units when you substitute. So whether you are substituting in, pressure will be given in bars, you have to put it in kilopascals. When it is put in kilopascals, I have to use R, Cp, Cv also in kilojoules per kg Kelvin units. Okay, so if it is in pascals, you have to, whatever be the thing, better you keep pressure in kilopascals, and R, Cp, and Cv in kilojoule per kg Kelvin. And you have to remember the values for air. R is equal to 0.287 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, Cp is equal to 1.005 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, and Cv is 0.718 kilojoules per kg Kelvin, and gamma equal to 1.4. These things we have to remember. And also we have seen that as n increase, if n is 0, the process line is horizontal. As n increases, its slope increases, and the next isothermal process comes, and then n equal to 1.2, 1.4, all these becomes steeper and steeper. And so the area under the curve actually decreases as the n increases. Okay, so that again, common sense, you can understand all those things. And another thing is I want to say is whenever there is expansion means V is increasing. So if V is increasing, dV is positive, means work is positive. So expansion gives positive work, and compression gives negative work. So when you draw the process line, if it is going towards right, it is positive work. If it is going towards left, it is negative work. And okay, some more things we will come across later. And also we have seen some more relations regarding efficiency. Efficiency is desired output by required input. So output is the profit that I get, and input is my capital I spent for that. And we defined combustion efficiency. So calorific value is the input, and whatever heat I get, it delivers, that is the output. And if you have a power plant with fuel as the input, and if I want the overall efficiency, so the main input is the fuel, mass flow of fuel into calorific value, and main output is electrical power. So, but there are three conversions are there, energy conversions. So chemical energy to thermal energy to mechanical energy to electric energy through three different equipment. So I have to use the efficiency of all them. So the product will give me the overall efficiency. And similarly, pump. So as I told, due to irreversibilities, there will be losses. Okay. So I am giving some work to the pump, and it increases the energy of the fluid. So input is the shaft work, output is the fluid energy. Similarly, turbine, I will get high energy fluid from which I get shaft power. So input is the energy of the fluid and output is the shaft power. So that is that you have pump motor or turbine generator, you have the combined efficiency, pump into motor, pump efficiency into motor efficiency, turbine efficiency into generator efficiency. Okay, these are the things we have dealt in the last class, and many things just with common sense you can understand many things. But once you understand the concept, everything will be clear. Any doubts about this matter? Any doubts? Then otherwise we will go to the today's topic. So mainly you have to feel comfortable in solving the problems. Okay, once you are comfortable, so you will have full confidence of handling the subject easily. Shall I proceed? Okay, so I heard Satish, Nutan. Thank you. We'll go to the next slide. So objectives for today's class. So first, I have to deal with flow systems or control volumes. So here the mass is crossing the system. And another thing is, as I told many times, people don't understand why dE is equal to du in the closed systems. So there may be kinetic energy or potential energy, the whole system may be moving and all. Here actually, it's not the question of piston and cylinder together moving. Here the system means the working fluid. So the working fluid in the piston and cylinder assembly, that is stationary. Working fluid is stationary. It is not moving. The fluid is not moving with some kinetic energy, or fluid is not going up or down. That's why the total energy is equal to only internal energy taken for the closed systems. But in the open systems, some fluid enters with some velocity and leaves with some velocity, and some fluid enters at some high altitude and some may leave at lower elevation. So there will be change in the potential energy and kinetic energy in the case of flow processes. So I have to consider all the three energies. Okay. So because mass is going and coming, I have to first see what is the conservation of mass, and what is steady flow, what is unsteady flow for a control volume, and apply the first law of thermodynamics and that is conservation of energy principle to control volumes, and identify energy carried by a fluid stream crossing the control surface as the sum of internal energy. Here flow work, one additional term will come, kinetic energy and potential energy of the fluid, and to relate the combination of the internal energy and the flow work to the property enthalpy. And then we apply this energy balance or energy equation to various open systems or flow devices. Okay, so that is the objective of this particular class. So here, first law application for open systems or control volumes or flow processes, all are same. So if I consider some arbitrary control volume, and the boundary is called the control surface, so this is mass of the control volume, and there may be number of inlets and there may be number of exits. So some masses are entering, some masses are leaving. Okay, and so mass flow rate. What is the expression for mass flow rate? Mass flow rate is equal to, and another thing is, hereafter we use C for velocity. We use C for velocity. Why? Because normally V is for velocity, but V is volume in the thermodynamics. So I will have confusion. In closed systems, I don't have any problem. But when I come to the open systems, I have some velocity and also volume in the picture. So velocity is given a symbol C. So rho AC, rho is the density in kgs per meter cube, and A is meter square, area of cross section, normal to the velocity direction, and C is the velocity in meters per second. So AC, this is meter square, and this is meters per second, which is meter cube per second. AC is volume flow, rate of volume flow. This also I didn't write it, but you have to know about this. Rate of volume flow. In fluid mechanics, you will come across this, right? AV or AC they will write. AV they will write, but AC. Okay, so meter cube per second. Meter cube per second means so much of volume entering per second. So this is volumetric flow. Into rho, kgs per meter cube into meter cube per second will become kgs per second. This is the rate of mass flow in kgs per second. Okay, rho AC. This is important relation, but usually rho is instead of rho, we usually use specific volume because PVT we will write many times. So V is specific volume there, and rho is density is inverse of specific volume. So this can be written as AC by V, AC by V. So mass flow is AC by V. If I know area of cross section and the velocity normal to the velocity area of cross section and this V is specific volume, if I know all the three, I can find out the mass flow. Okay, then I come to the mass conservation. So if there is a change of mass within the control volume, why it changes? Because there is something is entering and something is leaving. So if whatever is entering is equal to whatever is leaving, then there will not be any change in the mass of the control volume. But if entering is more and leaving is less, there will be increase in the mass of the control volume. And if entering is less and leaving is more, there will be decrease in the mass in the control volume. Okay. So here, time rate of change of mass within the control volume at time t is equal to rate of mass flow in minus rate of mass flow out. That is d by dt, the time rate of change of mass flow mcv, is equal to, if there can be number of inlets and number of exits, if you take inlets as 1 and exit as 2, sigma m dot 1 minus sigma m dot 2, all the inflows minus all the outflows. That if this is for more, there will be increase in this is positive, and if this is less and this is more, this will become negative, so mass decrease. Okay, this is the general mass conservation equation, and dmcv by dt is equal to sigma, if I substitute AC by V, A1 C1 by V1 minus A2 C2 by V2 kgs per second. So this is the general equation. This is for unsteady flow. But usually we will have steady flows. So steady flow means, so the mass of the fluid in the control volume will not change. When will it not change? When the inflows are equal to outflows. That is, the change of mass within the control volume is equal to 0. That is d by dt mcv is equal to 0. If this is 0, sigma m dot 1 is equal to sigma m dot 2. That is, the rate of mass entering is equal to rate of mass leaving. Okay, so this is normally we observe in most of the systems like turbines, compressors, nozzles, diffusers, boilers, condensers. All these are different steady flow systems. Okay, there are some unsteady flow systems. Okay, examples for unsteady flow, like filling of a tank with water. Suppose I have a water tank, I open the tap. Okay, the water gets going on filled, so there is no exit. So there will be increase of the mass of water within the tank. So this is unsteady flow. Similarly, filling of a balloon or even pressure cooker. So pressure cooker steam goes from the top when the whistle comes. So naturally, the mass within the pressure cooker gets reduced. Okay, so dmcv by dt is not 0. That is unsteady flow. Steady flow means dmcv by dt is equal to 0. So this is the generalized mass conservation equation. And for steady flows, this is the mass conservation. Sigma m dot 1 is equal to sigma m dot 2. If there is only one inflow and one outflow, m1 equal to m2, m1 dot equal to m2 dot. Rate of mass entering is equal to rate of mass leaving, only at single inlet. And both can be written as m dot, just general m dot. Okay, that we will do later. Okay, this is about mass conservation. Is it okay? So this is just straightforward. There is nothing much. Okay, then this is like even in chemical reactions also, the mass is conserved. If I have 2 kg of hydrogen and 16 kg of oxygen, if they are combined, I will get water, which is the total mass, 18 kg of H2O. Right? So conservation of mass principle for 2 inlet and 1 outlet steady flow system. So if 2 kgs are entering and 3 kgs are entering, leaving, so this total inlet is equal to total exit, 5 kgs per second. And conservation of mass principle for an ordinary bathtub. Okay, so there is a mass coming in, so 50 kgs, and mass going out, 30 kgs. So there is an accumulation of water, delta m bathtub is equal to m in minus m out, that is 20 kgs. Okay, so this is conservation of mass, but this is unsteady flow. Here this is unsteady flow. There will be continuous increase of mass within the system. And then the another important thing is flow work and the energy of a flowing fluid. Okay, what is this flow work? Whenever some mass has to enter the system, it is not just to open the door, it comes. Suppose I open my door, and if my inside room is high pressure, how can something enter into it? If something is to enter into it, somebody has to push the air into the room. Then only it can enter. So that is what is called as flow work. The work or energy required to push the mass into or out of the control volume. This work is necessary for maintaining a continuous flow through a control volume. If something is to enter, it is to be pushed in, and something is to go out, that is to be pushed out. Okay, so the work required for pushing the mass in or pushing the mass out is the flow work. And if the pressure here is P and the area of cross section of the inlet is A, so PA is the force that is required to push it. And suppose this length it is moved by is L, so work is equal to force into L, and force is equal to pressure into area, so P into AL, that is equal to P into V. So V is the volume of flow that is entering into the system. So the flow work is PV. So this is important. Okay, flow work is PV. So this is capital W, P into capital V, total volume. So per unit mass, flow work per unit mass is small w flow is equal to P into small v kilojoule per kg. Okay, this is the flow work. And when you talk about the total energy of non-flowing fluid in the closed systems, E is equal to U plus C square by 2 plus GZ. That is internal energy, potential energy, and kinetic energy. But total energy of a flowing fluid, when it is trying to flow into the control volume, so there should be PV also with that. So this is given as the total energy of the flowing fluid. I give a symbol theta. So this is U plus C square by 2 plus GZ plus PV also. So for non-flowing fluid, there are 3 parts for total energy. For flowing fluid, there are 4 parts. I'm sorry, here, yeah, this U plus PV, because we know it is H. So this will be H plus C square by 2 plus GZ. Okay, that is the difference between here and here. So when you take non-flowing fluid, I take U here. And when I take flowing fluid, this will be H here. That is the difference. And so rate of energy transport, if some energy, mass is entering into the system, the rate of energy into the system is m dot into H plus C square by 2 plus GZ. Okay, so this is the energy entering with the mass here, and the mass leaving again m dot into H2 plus C2 square by 2 plus GZ2. Like that it will be. So this is the mass of the energy of a flowing fluid. Okay, that is the same figure. And so the energy of non-flowing fluid is U, V square by 2 GZ. Energy of flowing fluid is this flow energy PV, U V square by 2 GZ. And these two together will become enthalpy. So it is before entering and after entering. So this mass goes into the control volume. Now we take the energy conservation. So rate of change of energy of the control volume. If the energy of the control volume is ECV, E control volume, total energy of the control volume. So rate of change of control volume is dECV by dt. So why this energy changes? Because of mass flow, because of heat transfer, and because of work transfer. So whichever crosses the boundary changes the property of the system naturally. That is the internal energy of the system or total energy of the system. Okay, so dECV by dt is equal to rate of energy transfer in by heat, work, and mass, and rate of energy transfer out by heat, work, and mass. Okay, so the rate of heat transfer is equal to, suppose, delta QCV by dt. Okay, here dot is not there. It is delta QCV by dt. Because if heat is entering to the system, the energy increases. So these two must have the same sign. Okay, if work is done by the system, then actually it decreases. Total energy decreases. So I give minus here. And some mass is entering with some energy, θ1. So then this energy entering the control volume is sigma m1 dot θ1 if there are more number of inlets. Similarly, sigma m2 dot θ2 if there are more number of outlets. Okay, this is the generalized energy equation for a flow system. dECV by dt is equal to delta QCV by dt minus delta WCV by dt plus m1 dot θ1 minus m2 dot θ2. Okay, still expanded form. So this θ1 is h1 plus c1 square by 2 plus gz1 and θ2 is h2 plus c2 square plus gz2. This is the generalized energy equation. Generalized energy equation. I didn't assume this is steady flow. This is for unsteady flow also. It is most generalized. Okay, here Q is net heat transfer rate to the system. W is net work done rate by the system. H1, C1, Z1 enthalpy, velocity, elevation of inlet. H2, C2, Z2 enthalpy, velocity, and elevation of exit. Okay, so this we have to be very clear about this. The conservation of energy for a flow system. So this is, as I told, generalized, and now I restrict it to or simplify it to for different systems. So the first thing is, okay, anyhow, this is the figure. The product M1 dot and theta I is the energy transported into the control volume by mass per unit time. Similarly, leaving will be M dot E. Okay, so or M dot 1, M dot 2, like that. And many engineering systems such as power plants operate under steady conditions. So usually they are under steady conditions. Whatever temperature I measure here, that will be same throughout the operation. Whatever pressure I measure, whatever measurements I make, any property, if it doesn't change with the system, means mass flow rate is constant, heat transfer is constant, work transfer is constant. If everything is constant, then it is a steady flow, and usually all the power plants work with steady conditions. Under steady flow conditions, the fluid properties at an inlet or exit remain constant, do not change with time. Under steady flow conditions, the mass and energy contents of a control volume remain constant. The mass here constant, volume, the energy also remain constant, and then it is a steady flow. So this we call it a steady state steady flow energy equation, SSSFEE. And assumptions already I have discussed. The composition, state, and velocity of the stream crossing the control volume boundaries do not change with time at entrance and exit. H1, C1, Z1, H2, C2, Z2 do not vary with time. That is the first one. Then state of fluid at any point within the control volume is same at all times. Okay, so then the dECV by dt equal to 0, dmCV by dt also will be equal to 0. That is, the mass of the fluid in the control volume is constant. So dmCV by dt also 0. And because this is 0, m1 dot equal to m2 dot is equal to m dot for mass conservation. Whatever mass entering is equal to mass leaving. I need not have 1 and 2 for mass. It is m dot. rate of inlet mass flow is equal to rate of exit mass flow. And then fourth one, the rate at which heat and work cross the boundary is constant. That is delta QCV by dt is a constant Q dot. And delta W by dt, it is W dot, which is constant. Q dot is constant, W dot is constant. So I can modify this previous equation, this one. So this is 0, this is Q dot, this is W dot, and M1 dot and M2 dot both will be M dot. So, and I can combine this M dot into H2 minus H1. Sorry. Okay, H1 minus, I may have written wrong. This. Okay, that is right. Okay, so here M1 into H1 minus H2, M1 into C1 square minus C2 square by 2, M1 into GZ1 minus GZ2. And so if I write Q dot CV is equal to, all these things are taken this side, and I will get in the same way as the closed system form. Okay. So Q dot CV is equal to M dot into H2 minus H1 plus C2 square minus C1 square by 2 plus G into Z2 minus Z1 plus W dot CV. It is just like a closed system. Q dot is equal to change in energy plus W dot. Okay, this energy I will have enthalpy, kinetic energy, and potential energy. You have to remember this particular equation. You have to remember this particular equation. This is, sometimes I will write it as dH. This is d of Ke. This is d of Pe. Change in potential energy, change in kinetic energy, change in enthalpy. Like that I will write sometimes. So here again, these are things in different forms. Okay. So applications of steady state, steady flow energy equations, we are essentially under the same conditions for long periods of time. And so I can assume steady state, steady flow for many devices. Such devices can be conventionally analyzed as steady flow devices like turbines, pumps, compressors, nozzles, diffusers, boilers, condensers, heat exchangers, etc. So the equation is like this. Q dot CV is equal to M dot into theta 1 minus theta 2 plus W dot CV. And theta 1 minus theta 2, I will write like this. So now this is theta 2 minus theta 1. Okay, M dot into H2 minus H1, C2 square minus C1 square by 2, G into Z2 minus Z1 plus W dot CV. Okay, so this is in watts. And if I divide by mass flow, Q dot CV by M dot, it becomes QCV, kilojoule per kg. H2 minus N1, joule per kg. So all these are joule per kg. All these are joule per kg. So QCV, WCV, H are in joules per kg, C in meters per second, and Z in meters. But many times what happen is QCV, WCV, H in the problem will be given in kilojoules per kg. If I substitute them in kilojoule per kg, I have to divide here by 1000 because this is joule per kg and this is joule per kg. So Q dot CV is equal to, now there is no dot here, QCV is equal to H2 minus H1 plus C2 square minus C1 square by 2000 plus G into Z2 minus Z1 by 1000 plus W dot CV. This is in kilojoule per kg. So QCV, H, WCV are in kilojoule per kg, C in meters per second, and Z in meters. Or delta Q dot CV is equal to DH plus D of KE plus D of PE is equal to delta W. So I can write in this form or in this form. When I do the problems, I do in this form. When I want to understand the concept, I use this particular form. So many times joule per kg, if you see in the previous slide, so this is joule per kg. Actually, this is also joule per kg. It should be dimensionally homogeneous. So means C2 square should have the units of joule per kg. But we know that C is meters per second. C2 square is meter square per second square. So meter square per second square units and joule per kg units also will be same. So why because what is joule? What is joule? It is like kgs into newtons into meters. Newtons into meters. And what is Newton? Kg into meters per second square. And kg, meter per second square, into meter by kg. And if you take it, this will become meter square per second square. So joule per kg is equivalent to meters per second square. We should not think that how can sir write like this? These are in joule per kg, dt is meter square per second square, gz2 also meter square per second square. And how can I write all these into a single equation? It should be dimensionally homogeneous. This is a dimensionally homogeneous equation because joule per kg is equivalent to meter square per second square. Is that clear? Okay. So we will see different devices, steady flow devices I told, nozzle, diffuser, turbine, and there can be compressor, and this is a throttling. And throttling can be done in different ways. We have an adjustable valve or a porous plug or a capillary tube. If you remember in refrigerator, when you studied in the BME, so there is what is called as throttling process. So throttling process is done by one of these two. There will be a sudden drop in the pressure across the throttle valve. Okay, there will be expansion, throttle expansion. And actually this is an unsteady and it is a non-quasi-static process. This is a non-quasi-static process. We will see in detail later. And also there are some more examples like mixing chamber. Some hot water is coming, cold water is coming like this. I get warm water, there is a mixing. And there is a heat exchanger, some cold fluid is going, hot fluid is coming in a heat exchanger, and there is a heat transfer. And all these things are steady flow devices. So we will see how we can use our SSSFEE for these devices. So steady flow devices, if I take a nozzle. So what is a nozzle? Nozzle is a device or duct that increases the velocity of the fluid at the expense of pressure. So pressure decrease and velocity increase across a nozzle. Okay. And so here if you see this nozzle, usually there is no heat transfer, there is no work transfer. So Q dot CV equal to 0, W dot CV equal to 0. And Z1 equal to Z2, it enters and leaves at the same height. Okay. So D of PE is equal to 0. And so what else is left with? We are left with change in enthalpy and change in kinetic energy, or dH plus d of KE equal to 0. Because d of PE is 0, Q dot is 0, W dot 0. So we get H2 minus H1 plus C2 square minus C1 square by 2 equal to 0, or H1 plus C1 square by 2 is equal to H2 plus C2 square by 2. Okay, we know that the velocity increase. Velocity increase means d of KE is positive. Right? Velocity increase means kinetic energy is increasing. So if this is positive, this must be negative because sum is 0. So dH is negative. dH is negative means enthalpy decrease. That is velocity increase by expanding enthalpy. So H decreases across the flow. So KE increases at the expense of enthalpy. So enthalpy is converted to kinetic energy in the nozzle. Just opposite takes place in the diffuser. So opposite of nozzle is diffuser. Diffuser is a duct or device that decreases the velocity of the fluid by increasing the pressure and enthalpy. So again, the same things happen. Q is 0, W is 0, change in potential energy is 0. So dH plus d of KE is 0, or H1 plus C1. Same equations come here. So whatever equations are there for nozzle, the same equations hold good for the diffuser also. Only thing is, here d of KE is positive, here d of KE is negative because velocity decrease. If velocity decrease, enthalpy increase. So enthalpy increases along the flow at the expense of kinetic energy. So here kinetic energy is converted into enthalpy and enthalpy increases. Okay, one thing in fluid mechanics later you will come across this. So the shape of the nozzle, usually we will see like this, isn't it? So nozzle is convergent and diffuser is divergent. In general, when the flow is subsonic. Okay, this you remember, later we will discuss some other time in detail why it is like that. Okay, because why it is convergent? Because AC equal to constant, volume flow is constant, or AC is equal to constant. Because C is increasing, A is decreasing, I will have a convergent nozzle. Similarly here, again AC, volume flow is constant. Because C is decreasing, A should increase. So area of cross section increase, I will have the diffuser like this. And this is true for incompressible flows or subsonic flows. So what do you mean by subsonic? So there is what is called as Mach number. Mach number is equal to C by A, velocity of the fluid by local sonic velocity. So sometimes you might have heard about supersonic flights and all, right? Supersonic flight means which goes more than the velocity of light. So if m equal to 1, that is sonic, C equal to A. So if the fluid is moving with sonic velocity, that is Mach number is 1. And if C is less than sonic velocity, normally all vehicles go at cars, bikes and all. These are going less than the speed of sound. So they are at subsonic velocities. Subsonic velocity means m is less than 1 to 1. Supersonic means C is more than A, more than sound velocity. So m is greater than 1 is called supersonic velocity. And so this shape of the nozzle actually differs when the supersonic velocities I deal with. So when I deal with supersonic velocity, I have to see that m dot is constant, not AC is constant. So because actually mass conservation means m dot is constant. If rho is not changing, that is incompressible. Incompressible means rho is constant, density is constant. If density is constant, AC is constant. Okay, that's why these are all working nicely. But if I take m dot is equal to rho AC, where rho is not constant, in supersonic velocities, right, because velocity is very much increased, pressure decrease, density decrease, temperature decrease. Okay, so density decrease very much. So I cannot say AC is constant, rho AC is constant, but because density decrease very much, AC should increase. And so all my concept will become opposite. For supersonic velocity, nozzle should have divergence and diffuser should have convergent nozzle. Okay, so here you can see the shape of the nozzle is convergent in subsonic flow and divergent in supersonic flow. And the shape of diffuser is divergent in subsonic flow and convergent in supersonic flow. This you have to understand. Okay, so this is about nozzle and diffuser. Okay, again, just recapitulate what happens in nozzle and diffuser. There is no heat transfer, QCV is 0. There is no work transfer, WCV is 0. There is no change in potential energy, D of P is 0. There are only change in enthalpy and change in kinetic energy. If kinetic energy is to increase, enthalpy is to decrease. If enthalpy is to decrease, kinetic energy is to decrease. So in nozzle, kinetic energy increases at the expense of enthalpy. In the diffuser, enthalpy increases at the expense of kinetic energy. So once I have this equation, and if I am given H1 and C1, if one of these two are given, other thing can be found out. Okay, so these are 4 variables. 3 variables will be given in the problem. You have to find out the 4th variable. Only thing is I have to know which equation is to be used. Then coming to turbines and compressors. So what are turbines? Turbines are devices which drive electric generators in steam power plants, gas power plants, and hydroelectric power plants. So in all things, in steam power plants, we have steam turbine. In gas power plants are gas turbines. In the hydroelectric power plants, I have hydraulic turbines. So some turbine will be there which drives the generator. Generator gives the electric power. So as the fluid passes through the turbine, so across the turbine, what happens? Work is done against the blades. High energy fluid is coming and hitting the blades, which pushes the blades, and the turbine rotates and the shaft rotates. And as a result, the shaft rotates and the turbine produces work. So here W is positive. And compressors are opposite. Compressors, blowers, pumps, fans are opposite to turbines. Okay, what is the difference? Okay, here we give work, right? So electricity is supplied, electrical work is supplied, and it increases the energy of the fluid. So work is supplied to these devices from an external device, and it increases the pressure of the fluid or energy of the fluid. Okay, what is the difference between all these things? Pumps handle liquids only. All these are working with fluids, and fluids are liquids and gases. And if it increases the pressure of a liquid like water, we call it as a pump. Okay, if working fluid is air, I can have fans, blowers, and compressors. All of them increase the pressure of air. And fan, it increases pressure in the low pressure range, and blowers, medium pressure range, and compressors, high pressure range. So if I want high pressure air, I have to use compressor. I have to get, suppose, medium pressure air, I use blowers. Some low pressure air, but large mass flows I want, then I get fans. So fans, even ceiling fans also, they are which supplies air at a little bit of higher pressure. Okay, so but low pressure range, but large mass flows. Okay, and if I take the steady state steady flow energy equation for turbines and compressors, again the same thing, QCV is equal to DH plus D of KE plus D of PE plus WCV. And in general, for turbines and compressors, the heat loss is very small. Okay, and change in kinetic energy, change in potential energy also very small. So here, whenever I add two quantities, suppose one is 1000, another is 1. So that one, even if I neglect, it will not matter much. Okay, 1001 or 999 like that. So it is around 1000 only. So if a small thing is to be added to the large one, sometimes I can neglect this small one. It depends on the data. If data is not given, okay, you can easily neglect it. But if data is given, I have to calculate. So later, when you solve the problems, you can find that when you solve turbine problem, compressor problem, change in enthalpy, change in internal energy, change in potential energy, kinetic energy like that, you can see that the energy contributed by change in potential energy is very small, and by kinetic energy also is very small compared to the change in enthalpy. So whether you add these two to this, or even if you neglect it, the answer may not be much different. Okay. Okay. So these are negligible or very small. Then the main contributors are DH plus WCV equal to 0, or WCV equal to minus DH. So if this W and DH are having opposite signs, if W is positive, DH is negative, WC is negative, DH is positive. So if I take turbine, WCV is positive, and so H decrease. Okay, in turbines, WCV is positive, DH is negative. So work is produced at the expense of enthalpy. Okay, when it is coming from a boiler, the fluid or suppose steam is coming from the boiler, it comes with high energy or enthalpy. And when it crosses the turbine, all the enthalpy will be converted into work, shaft work. Okay, in compressors, work is negative, that is, I'm giving electrical work. So its energy increases or enthalpy increases. DH is positive, and due to work input, enthalpy of the fluid increases. Okay, so this is the way the steady state steady flow energy equation can be applied to turbines and compressors. And coming to the other, like boilers and condensers, again both are similar concept but opposite to each other. We have seen nozzle and diffuser opposite to each other, turbines and compressors opposite to each other, and boilers and condensers opposite to each other. Okay, what is that? In both the cases, there will be phase change. Liquid to vapor in the boiler, vapor to liquid in the condenser. And how this conversion takes place? By heat transfer. You give heat to the boiler and you take away heat from the condenser. Okay, that is the difference. So if you see again, boilers are used to evaporate a liquid to vapor phase by transferring heat to the working fluid, that is Q greater than 0. So again, if I take steady state steady flow energy equation, in the equation, work because boiler will not do any work, so this is negligible, and d of Ka and d of Pe also negligibly small, and only thing which contribute is Q dot Cv is equal to dH. Okay, so here also you get Q dot Cv is dH. Only thing here condensers are used to condense vapor to liquid form of a fluid by losing heat. So Q is negative. So both equations are same. Only thing is here Q is positive, dH is positive. So when Q positive means heat is given, so its enthalpy of the fluid increase. Enthalpy of the fluid increases due to the heat transfer to the fluid. Here enthalpy of the fluid decreases as it loses heat to the surroundings. Right? So that is the application to boilers and condensers. Coming to throttling device. So like free expansion is a non-quasi-static process for a closed system. In the same way, throttling process is a non-quasi-static process in open systems or control volumes. And throttling valves are a kind of flow restricting device that causes significant pressure drop in the fluid. It is just like a valve on a pipe. If you have a valve, if I close it, so that is throttling. Okay, so opening or closing of that, it is throttling. So if I open it, there is a flow taking place because high pressure to low pressure, the flow takes place. Okay, this we will see later. So Q dot Cv is equal to dH plus d of Ke plus d of Pe plus WCV. So here there is no heat transfer. I am not heating or anything, and so QCV is 0. It is not doing any work. WCV also is 0, and there is not much change in kinetic energy because the cross section is same, velocity is same, no change in kinetic energy, and the 10% leaves at the same height. So change in potential energy is 0. So only thing is dH. dH also becomes 0 because all these are negligibly small or 0. dH is 0. Means H is constant. That's why it is called as isenthalpic process. Free expansion is iso-internal energy process. And this is isoenthalpy, means isenthalpic process. H is found to be constant in spite of change in pressure and volume of the fluid. Here, pressure is suddenly dropping, so there is change in the pressure. And because expansion volume increases, so there is change in the volume, but enthalpy is remaining constant. So this indicates that H must be a function of temperature only. H must be a function of temperature only. H is equal to H of T. Similarly, in free expansion, we have decided that internal energy is a function of temperature only. So this is the conclusion I get from here. Again, you should not think that this is, and the temperature is constant. So internal energy, the free expansion temperature is constant, and enthalpy some temperature is constant, but this is not isenthalpic process. Sorry, this is not isothermal process. Free expansion and throttling, there will be temperature constant, but they are different to isothermal process. In isothermal process, I know that W12 is P1V1 log V2 by V1. There is a work done or work transfer, but here there is no work transfer. So in that way, it is different to isothermal process. So for perfect gases, and another thing, for perfect gases, the temperature remain constant, but for other pure substances which are not ideal gases, when there is throttling expansion, there will be a sudden drop in temperature. Throttling decreases the temperature for real fluids. This is an important point you have to remember. So here, what is the difference between turbine and a throttle valve? Throttle valve also expansion is there, turbine also expansion is there. Then what is the difference between these two? This is the question. The pressure drop in the fluid is often accompanied by a large drop in temperature in throttle valve. Here I am telling, see, there are so many opposite things I am talking about. So here I am telling temperature remain constant. Here I am telling temperature, lot of drop in the temperature. This is for real fluids. That's why this throttle valve is used in refrigerators, right? And for this reason, they are commonly used in refrigeration and air conditioning systems. But this is not true for perfect gas. For perfect gas, T is constant, H is constant. But these are not isothermal because W is there. W here, it is 0. So this is about throttling process. Then mixing chambers of hot and cold water is shown. Suppose hot water is going this way, cold water is coming this way, and warm water is going this way. m1 dot t1, m2 dot t2, and m dot 3 t3. And so here, if you apply the mass conservation and energy conservation, m1 dot plus m2 dot is equal to m3 dot, that is mass conservation. And energy conservation, if I take, so here there is no heat transfer, there is no work transfer to the surroundings. So change in kinetic energy, change in potential energy, everything will become zero. That is, again, dH is zero. dH is zero means enthalpy entering is equal to enthalpy leaving. What is the enthalpy entering? M dot 1 H1 plus M dot 2 H2. Okay, these are the enthalpies entering. And enthalpies leaving is M dot 3 H3. So this is the energy equation. If I know H1 and H2, I can find out what is H3. Okay. And the heat exchange are also in the same way. So one fluid is going this way and another is fluid is coming this way, and heat transfer takes place from hot fluid to cold fluid. Here also there is no heat transfer to the surroundings, and WCV is 0, QCV is 0, D of KE is 0, D of PE is 0. So DH is 0. Again, enthalpy entering equal to enthalpy leaving. So here one fluid is entering at 1 and leaving at 2. Another fluid is entering at 3 and leaving at 4. So the enthalpy, total enthalpy entering is equal to m1 dot h1 plus m dot 3 h3 is equal to whatever are leaving, m dot 2 h2 plus m dot 4 h4. So I can combine them as m1 dot into h1 minus h2 is equal to m3 dot into h4 minus h3. So this is the heat lost by hot fluid, and this is heat gained by the cold fluid. Okay, so heat lost by hot fluid is equal to heat gained by cold fluid. That is the way the energy conservation takes place. Okay, this is about the applications of all the applications for flow processes, various devices, and we are seeing, so we have derived mass conservation, we have derived the energy conservation, a general energy conservation, and steady state steady flow energy equation, and applied that for various devices, nozzles, diffusers, turbines, compressors, boilers, condensers, mixing chambers, and heat exchangers. Okay, these and throttling devices. All these things we have seen. Okay, this is the way I conclude this. Any questions? Are there any questions? Yeah, that is volume only. WCV equal to PV, pressure into volume. So then only the units will be homogeneous. Okay, we'll go to the story then. So it's a nice story. A gentleman was walking through an elephant camp. It's like circus, okay? And he spotted that the elephants weren't being kept in cages or held by the use of chains. They are not kept in big rooms or cages, and they are not tied with chains also. Just all that was holding them back was from escaping the camp was a small piece of rope tied to one of their legs. So a small rope is tied to the leg through to a pole. And as the man gazed upon the elephants, he was completely confused as to why the elephants didn't just use their strength to break the rope and escape the camp. It can just pull away and get away, but they are not doing, just they are lying there. They could easily have done so, but instead they didn't try at all. And curious and wanting to know the answer, he asked the trainer nearby why the elephants were just standing there and never trying to escape. Okay, it's an interesting answer. The trainer replied, when they were very young and much smaller, we use the same size of rope to tie them. And at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe that they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free. The only reason that the elephants weren't breaking free and escaping from the camp was that over time, they adopted the belief that it just wasn't possible. Okay, there is a mental block created. I cannot break this rope. It is beyond my capacity. like that, that mental block came and it will never try. So the same thing happens for many of us. No matter how much the world tries to hold you back, always continue with the belief that what you want to achieve is possible. Believing you can become successful is the most important step in actually achieving it. Okay, thank you very much. So this is important actually, how you believe about yourself, your capacity, your capabilities, right? So based on that, you achieve in your life. You decide what you want to become and you will become. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you in the next class. Stop recording, please. So ask that